Hey guys, Hecons here with another World of Warcraft gold making guide. Today I wanted to share what I've been doing with Inscription to make so much gold. In the past 30-ish hours I've made over 2.1 million gold, and today I wanted to cover my sales as well as the profession itself, and then go over what I've been doing to make that gold. So to start, here are my sales for the past 30 hours. This would have been sales between when I went to sleep on Wednesday evening to this morning, which is Friday morning. So as you guys can see, I've been selling quite a few of the contracts. These are a new item that give increased rep when you complete world quests, so they're quite popular with new 120s doing world quests and farming rep. I've also been selling quite a few of the Dark Moon decks. I sold the Dark Moon deck Fathoms this morning for 522k after the auction house cut, or 550. A lot of people trying to complete decks themselves, either to use themselves or to flip, have been buying my individual cards. I sold the 3 of Tides earlier for 50k. 2 of Skulls for 41.6k, 2 of Fathoms for almost 160 after the auction house cut, and then the Ace for almost 110 after the auction house cut. I also sold one of the offhands. I think it's an eye level 300 offhand that you can craft with Inscription for 20k, which isn't too bad. I'll show you guys what the mats are for each of the individual crafts, so you can get an idea of how much the cost is. More contracts. As I said, you go through quite a few of them. I think each time you want to farm rep for a new faction, you have to reuse the contract, so that's why there's so much demand for it. And I sold 2 7 of blockades for 95k each after the auction house cut. More contracts. And then here's my big ticket sale. This was the first Dark Moon deck that I sold this expansion, and I got 1 million gold for it, or 950 after the auction house cut. I think I was the second one on the auction house with the Dark Moon decks, so this would have been a sale that was 2 days ago. I think I sold it in the morning, really early morning, Thursday, so pretty awesome sale. Then more contracts. So here's the profession itself. It was actually one of the easier ones to level. My Demon Hunter is still only level 110 since I haven't really leveled her at all, and I managed to cap Inscription just by crafting the Dark Moon cards. So one quick tip I have for you guys is not to use the Mass Mill feature once it's unlocked. Billis and Nexio is saying that it's still possibly glitched and giving smaller yields than doing the individual mills. So this is the macro that I've been using to mill my herbs if I need to do it individually. It's actually a 2-part macro. The first part sets up this function. So all you have to do is click this once. And then this is the second part, which detects the herbs in your bags and mills those. So this is the one that you want to have in your menu bar, and it's actually a key that you can spam. It'll just find herbs in your bags and mill them automatically. And I'll have both of these in the description below if you wanted to use them. They're really convenient, and it's something I've been using for the past probably like 3 or 4 expansions. That's a nice one to have. So in BFA, herbs can mill into 3 different types of pigment, and then we can craft 3 different types of ink using those pigment. The first one is Crimson ink, the second one is Ultramarine ink, which is going to be the most common, and then the last one is Viridescent ink, which is the most rare. One thing to be mindful of when you're shopping for herbs is that 1 mil of anchorweed will always guarantee at least 1 viridescent pigment. In my experience, I've been finding that the other herbs only give around 0.5 to 0.6. So if you're milling anchorweed, you're going to get twice as many viridescent pigment. So one of the things that I recommend is getting the Culture Crafting enchantment on your gloves when you're crafting the inks, as this will greatly increase the process. If you have gathering as your second profession and you're using one of the gathering enchantments on your gloves, I'd recommend picking up a second pair. Just pick up a random cheap BOE, throw crafting on those, and then you can just swap gloves whenever you need to do any crafting. So once you have all of your inks made, let's look at what other items you can craft with Inscription. So we have codexes and tomes returning. These are essentially the same item as what we got in Legion. However, the Legion counterparts are a lot cheaper to craft. So I would recommend using those if you need tomes or codexes for either dungeons or raids. We also have War Scrolls, which give a combat enhancement, depending on which one you use. You have Battle Shout for attack power, Fortitude for stamina, and Intellect for intellect. We also have a new item called the Scroll of Unlocking. It's essentially the same as what Jewel Crafters got in Legion. However, I think anyone can use this scroll and you don't need to be a scribe to use it, so definitely check the prices of these on your auction house, and if they're going to be profitable, throw them up. The next items are contracts, which I mentioned briefly earlier. These let you get rep when you complete world quests, so they're definitely a must-craft item, and especially as a gold maker, it's an item that I always keep in my bags and am constantly relisting on the auction house. It's also the item that I've been using most of my Ultramarine and Crimson ink on, as the Dark Moon cards only take the Viridescent ink. You're gonna end up with a bunch of Ultramarine ink and Crimson ink anyway, so it's definitely good to dump them into contracts and throw them up on the auction house. So the last item that you might consider crafting are these two. They're item level 300 offhands, the Honorable Combatant's Etched Vessel, and the Inscribed Vessel of Mysticism. I would definitely recommend crafting a few of the Combatant's Etched Vessel. You can unlock rank 2 and rank 3 really easily using Marks of Honor, and the vendor can just be found in your capital city. Rank 2 took 2 Marks of Honor, and then rank 3 took 4 Marks of Honor, so 6 total to get rank 3, and you're going to be able to craft these much more cost effectively. So lastly, I wanted to go over my shuffle and how I've been getting the Expulsum to craft the Dark Moon cards. So the Expulsum comes from using the scrapper in your new capital city to scrap gear. One cool thing you can do is scrap BOEs. So one of the first things I do is hit the auction house and look for any cheap BOE greens or blues and throw those in the scrapper. So these are the search parameters I'm using. Level range is 110 plus, and then I check each of the weapon and armor tabs individually. Make sure you're only buying items which are item level 200 and up. Any of these 138s are old Legion items and won't scrap into anything, so definitely worth bidding all these cheaper items as well. And depending on prices on your realm, you can set your threshold higher or lower. Generally, I've been buying anything under 150 to 200. But since the prices of decks have come down quite a bit, I'm going to probably scale it back and say 150. As you guys can see, you can find some pretty good deals. 280 eye level green for 100 gold. So something like that I'm gonna buy and throw in the scrapper. There's another 280 for 125. And we're just gonna do this. I might as well pick these up at 160. That's fine. And then everything else is getting pretty expensive. Like I said, anything under like 200's pretty good on my realm. If it's anything higher than that, I'm going to be able to just craft my own BOEs, so it's not worth picking up anything higher than 200 gold. I think that's it. Oh, one more. And then we're going to do weapons really quickly. See, lots of 280 items for 100 gold. Remember that you get materials back too from using the scrapper, so another gold making technique might be picking up cheap items and then scrapping those for the mats that you get back. Especially anything plate, you're going to be able to get back ore, which is really pricey on most realms right now, so we're going to toss the items that we picked up from the auction house and see what we get back. So we're starting with 5 expulsum, and I think on average you get 1 expulsum for every 6 items that you throw in here. At least with the crafted gear, so hopefully we'll be able to get a few. So we've got some leather, 1 ore, or 3 ore rather, some cloth. This is definitely an improvement over the Obliterum Forge, but I wish we could throw more than 9 items in here at a time. So we're up to 8 expulsums so far. 9 expulsum. 10. So the BOE greens might actually be better drop rate than crafting bracers and throwing those, but could just be RNG as well, so. So we got all those items scrapped and ended up with 11 expulsum, so ended up getting 6. We also got a bunch of other mats back in return. 17 leather, 17 ore, 11 of the bloodstained bones, 23 cloth. This is vendor item, 10 shimmer scale, 5 calcified bone, and vendor item. So it's a pretty decent haul, considering we got 6 expulsum total from doing all that. I guess it's gonna give us 6 extra cards once we get more pigment. If this isn't an option on your realm, or if someone's already bought out the greens, then the next best way to get a expulsum is crafting your own bracers and then scrapping those. It's the same shuffle pretty much as Legion, but I'll just go over it briefly since it is a new expansion and some people may not know about it. So if you have a leatherworker or a tailor, one thing you can do to get cheap expulsum is crafting the arm guards and throwing those in the scrapper. For leatherworking, we have 2 different types of arm guards. The coarse leather arm guards, which takes 6 leather and 4 of the bloodstained bones. And then the male shimmer scale arm guards, which takes 6 shimmer scale and 4 of the bloodstained bones as well. I don't remember the tailoring arm guards, but those items take 10 of the BFA cloth, as well as a vendor item that you can buy off of one of the vendors. So once you figure out which is the cheapest option on your realm, you're just gonna mass craft the bracers. And then you can mail these to your scribe, use the scrapper on that character, and then get the expulsum. It's really up to you if you want to scrap the blues and the greens. Some people may prefer scrapping only the greens and disenchanting the blues if you're after the Ember Shards. But it's completely up to you. I need to level up enchanting, so I'm probably going to mail my enchanter the blues and disenchant those, but some people were saying that the blues give better yield for the expulsum. I haven't verified that yet, so it's not a big deal, just scrapping the greens. So for tailoring, the item that you want to craft is this, the Tide Spray Linen Bracers. And if you need the nylon thread to craft the bracers, they're actually purchased at the trainer. He has 2 different options, one for training and one for goods. They're 60 silver each, so price from these is pretty inconsequential. So that's going to be it for this guide. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Hope you guys are enjoying the new expansion, and have a great weekend. I'll see you guys all in the next video, and happy gold making. Late.